Today's discussion is about painting your fabric. I'm doing this partially for my Texas Make It with Wool people, but it's also about just technique in general. So what you're gonna see is I have a raspberry, I have a bright blue, and I have a car going by, and then I have a yellow, which is actually kind of a combination of a pastel mixed with a little bit of a bright yellow. So part of the dye process is not accepting things at face value. You may, as you start to really get into it, figure out quickly that blending colors will get you closer to where you want to be. I always keep fresh water. As you can see, this is the first sample that I did. And the reason I chose the raspberry is because, you know, choosing red would be so obvious. But by choosing raspberry, you can just see just the depth in here, just when they come together. And in here too, even when the blues crisscross with this and that. So I'm going to show you real quick how I got there. I use a standard paintbrush. You have to make sure that you have water nearby so that you can continually rinse your brush. Otherwise, you're going to have issues. So I'm actually going to move my pot of water. So see, I have all kinds of doodads around me. The other thing that you're going to want to have is a pair of gloves. So I'm going to put my gloves on. I'm going to be a good girl. And here we go. I'm wearing extra thick gloves. You don't need to if you're going to pre-mix your dyes. If you're going to be dealing with hot water pots, etc., then obviously you're going to want to do your thing. So I'm going to start here because I don't like to waste a good bit here. So I can see I still have some blue left over my brush. I'm going to go ahead and clean that sucker out so that it doesn't taint my dye. And see if we can get a more truer raspberry now. Here we go. So just by doing that, you see how that color changed? It had still a little bit of the blue left in the brush. But look at what happens when it transitions across that yellow. I just love that. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix out my paintbrush again. And this just requires some patience. Again, flicking, and then see. And coming back. And I'm letting it drip on. And it's interesting to me how the yellow actually pushes the red back. And then it kind of comes back again. So you don't even have to barely even touch your fabric. And you can get kind of that coloration that you want. And say you want to have it be dramatic, of course you can splatter on, you know. There's all kinds of things you can do. You hear me rinsing off my stuff. Another technique I'm going to show you in a minute is one of my faves. I love it. So go back in and just let the color kind of come off the brush. Unless if you're looking for really kind of like that painterly look, there's no reason for you to do anything else but kind of just see how those polka dots come out. Now you've made this fabric that's one of a kind. Now and then of course it's up to you to figure out how you're going to use it next. So I'm going to get some of that excess color off. Okay. So now we're going to go into my next favorite thing, which is to work with string. So we're going to push this down. Now I have the color is already setting itself, so it's not going to bleed because you soak your fabric with a little bit of vinegar and that color is going to stay where it needs to stay. Let's see if I can get that string out with my rubber gloves on. Okay, I have a globule of strings. And the first one looks like it's going to be cotton. So cotton is something that you experiment with. And you stick that into your color. See, I'm just gonna stick it in here real quick. And be real careful though, so I'm gonna move this over to a different side. I'm gonna take this, and see I've already splattered. But look at what I can do with that, just that little bit. And if you want to be careful, you be careful. You do this, the best way to do this actually, and I should have done that first, was go ahead and flip your pan to a disgusting looking side. And rinse that off real quick. Give yourself some leverage, but you can see the fabric did not bleed onto itself. It didn't change. I'm just gonna bring it down. So then I can take a color. I'm going to dip it into blue this time. And if you're real deliberate, you hold it real tight, you can get these really cool marcations on there. Isn't that beautiful? Marcations. I think I just invented a word. But you can get that really cool look to it. So you, in essence, can make your own plaid. And go back and dribble some really cool polka dots on there. And this is great for the younger generations, you know, anything from the preteens and up to even college level, where you're trying to show off your talent as an artist. You want people to believe that you can do this, that you have more to you than just cutting out a pattern that you bought and going in and kind of, see, I spent all my dyes. So what happens is with the cotton generally does not like to hold this particular dye. So you just have to know what you're working with. So if I switch to a wool, the wool is going to behave differently. Hopefully it's going to behave at all. Let me show you real quick. This is actually a blue face luster. Just that little bit of a difference. I should be able to get a little bit more color out of there. And you are allowed to tamp it down, but you make sure those gloves are clean before you push down on that string. So that's just a real quick demonstration that I wanted to get out of my head to show off to you guys. But you can just see, just from just this little bit of work we did, what an amazing little piece of color we have to work with. It's awesome. I hope you have a great day.